Blank here, and welcome back to another instalment of the Skulls General Reviews, in which today I'm going to be reviewing the Telos novella Time. Let us begin this Doctor Who book review by taking a look at the presentation of this Doctor Who book, and I am reviewing the deluxe edition, just in case you guys are wondering. There's a standard edition and a deluxe edition, and this is the deluxe edition. So we have framing the sort of cover itself, we have this sort of blue frame, Doctor Who novellas, Time and Relative, Kim Newman, and the sort of cover itself has gotten this very sort of icy sort of look to it. Don't know how well this is showing up for you guys, but I hope you guys can see that good. And then for the spine we have, Doctor Who, Time and Relative, Kim Newman and Telos. And then for the back it's just this continuation of the sort of icy sort of cover effects. Taking a look at the index of the book now, we have the built-in, and that's on my computer on, we have the built-in fabric bookmark right there, set against these sort of almost sort of set against these sort of light blue pages, which have sort of been put in the book for stylization, I guess you would say. And then we have the autographs that come in this Telos Novella Deluxe, with Doctor Who novellas, Kim Newman, Justin Richards, and the guy that did the illustration exclusive to the Deluxe. Doctor Who novellas, Time and Relative. Doctor Who novellas, Time and Relative, Kim Newman, telos.co.uk. Various copyright guff, Time and Relative, Kim Newman. For Jerome, and then a forward for. And then at the end of the sort of forward we have the exclusive registration exclusive to the Deluxe, which is pretty amazing. See, I could stare at this for ages. It's got lots to it. And then for the actual book itself, it is a 107 page long Doctor Who book. Let me just check. 106 page long Doctor Who book actually, and it is spread across diary entries of Susan Foreman. I'm not 100% sure how many diary entries it's split across exactly, as they are not numbered, but they are numbered in terms of dates and stuff. But in terms of amount of diary entries and stuff, I'm not 100% sure overall, but it's about or approximately 10. And then we have an afterword, a bit about the author at the very back there, and then there we have a coming soon for Citadels of Dreams. And then taking forward a bit more blank, couple blank pages, then we have other Telos titles available, and then there we've got sort of more blue blank pages at the back. And there isn't a synopsis with this edition of Time and Relative. I don't know if the deluxes just simply didn't have synopsises at the back of the books, like they did in the later ones, because my deluxe of Eye of the Tiger does actually have that. So I don't know if that was something they later introduced with the Telos deluxes. I don't know, but doesn't really matter. But with the presentation of this Doctor Who book out of the way with, what are my own personal thoughts and opinions on this Doctor Who novella? On Goodreads, this first venture into the world of Doctor Who novellas by Telos is very, very well praised. Its page on Goodreads is utterly ubiquitous, with 4-star and 5-star reviews, with an average rating of 3.5 4.87 out of 5 overall, so near enough 4 out of 5. And a reviewer on Goodreads by the name of Daniel described this book like this, quote, "These Telos Doctor Who novellas are so rare and so varied in quality that it's not always worth to track them down, but in this case it was well worth the trouble and expense to read this." Not quite sure if it was worth spending 120 quid on, but because that did actually happen with the deluxe recently, believe it or not. As this book is pretty much like Times Champion level with rarity, and considering it came out like a whole 7 years before Times Champion, possibly even 8, I would say is possibly rarer than Times Champion, but I digress. With regards to my personal opinion, I could not agree more with what Daniel said for the most part. Telos novellas have been quite rocky with me, Frayed being one of the worst Doctor Who books I have ever read, and Eye of the Tiger being a very focused, easy to lose track of experimental read that I liked overall, with a 7 for that book, and is another Doctor Who book that I have actually read, or reviewed rather. And unfortunately, Time and Relative very nearly fell into the category of being a very mediocre read for me personally, which I'll detail more when I get into the negatives. First positive I have with this novella is that Kim Newman very much made this feel like a 1963 story. It felt very vindicative of the time that it was set in, referencing quite a lot of pop culture iconography, such as Susan telling her friends that grandfather's hair's even longer than the Beatles at one point, the Twilight Zone being referenced many times, and even a Looney Tunes reference of a character nicknamed Martin the Martian, which is a reference to the character Marvin the Martian. It even goes as far to describe the characters eating food made by companies that were huge back then, such as Cadbury's and Smith's Crisps. That's a tongue twister. All of this leads into my next positive. The writing is pretty damn amazing overall, with all the original characters and regulars getting excellent characterization. The writing also leads to Newman splicing in some very light and humorous moments into this story, with the Doctor not believing what Susan has seen and saying that next you'll be seeing, quote, gliding pepper pots, which is great because this novel can be pretty heavy in some places with regards to gore and realism, with a character being literally spiked by ice, not literally in terms of drinks, but in terms of being like cocktail sausage skewered. That was a fucking awful metaphor. I also like to point out that this feels very much like a prequel to An Unearthly Child, in the sense that it acts as a prologue, episode -1 and -2 if you will, to that TV story. The Doctor, Susan, Ian and Barbara, the 4 main characters to that TV story, all make appearances in this novel, with the last 2 of which having no dialogue whatsoever, as well as the Doctor also barely getting any time to shine at all in this Telos novella. I think I nearly said toilet there. Which on the surface is pretty damn odd. However, I do think this overall does work quite well for the novel, as to me it acts as more of a character piece for Susan. It's almost as if Kim Newman felt that Susan did not get enough characterization in An Unearthly Child by creating 2 prologue episodes for this story with this novella, and rectifying that point he or she had with An Unearthly Child. So overall, this book acts more of a character piece for Susan, and that is what I personally feel that it should be regarded as. Sure, you get an adventure part in this story, but still. Now, as a 1960s fan, this novella just completely won me over. Personally, I am very tempted to give this novella a 9, maybe even more, maybe a 10 personally, but my brain did find quite a big problem with Time and Relative, and yeah, it was pretty big. This Doctor Who novella is very much structured like a two-parter, like the stories The Edge of Destruction and The Rescue, in the sense that the first half builds layers, characterises the story and sets up the finale in the final episode like those stories did, and very much what the Fourth Doctor Adventure 2-episode audios Big Finish are doing nowadays do, which is fine and dandy, but the first half of this Doctor Who book in particular, in my opinion, is pretty slow and even mediocre to an extent, which may put a lot of people off this book. However, I do think the latter half is near enough stellar and is a worthy payoff to the previous 50 pages of this Doctor Who book. Now, the next thing, or the next negative, and the final sort of negative for this book in my opinion, is pretty nitpicky, I'll admit that, but if you read Time and Relative, and if you really do think about it, you will probably have the same point as I do with this Doctor Who book that I'm about to mention. And that certain point is this. The whole novella is structured like a story woven across multiple diary entries of Susan Foreman, which again is, theoretically, great. However, it does seem a little far-fetched that she managed to get the amount of detail in this book down her diary as the events actually unfolded in real life, unless she was actually writing it as she went along, which is near enough impossible considering the events of this book. I highly doubt that she would have gotten the amount of detail in her diary that she did, and as a person that actually writes a form of diary, this really did stick out to me like a sore thumb, a frostbitten one, I guess you would say, as this novella just felt far too pure and filtered to actually be a story told in diary entries. Overall, this is a love letter to 60s fans like myself, and I would overall say that it is essential to experience if you are a fan of that era, as it is truly a wonderful story and a great prologue to An Unearthly Child. And just in case you're wondering, no, this story does not lead into An Unearthly Child. It doesn't even take place directly before An Unearthly Child. It takes place about a whole 8 months before An Unearthly Child. Overall, this Telos novella gets a solid 8 out of 10 and is a must read for any 60s fans like myself. One of the biggest treats a fan of that era could have, and a true love letter to 1960s fans. If you can track this book down, I mean, pick your poison, standard or deluxe. Both are pretty hard to get. Pick your poison. If you want to go for the deluxe, go for the deluxe. If you want to go for standard, go for standard. But no matter what edition you may try to get or even end up getting, you need to get this in your collection as a 1960s era fan, as this is one of the best sort of tribute novels to 1960s era Doctor Who as a whole that a Doctor Who fan can ever get.